Sorry for,
Sorry.
all right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience. Welcome to Challenge and Solution in Corporate Outreach. My name is Nit Noi, and I'm a Corporate Engagement Manager for Synergy Animal, and I'll be serving as your moderator for this session. In this session, you'll be hearing a presentation / workshop in an interactive style from Maho Uehara. But before we get started, I wanted to take a few minutes of your time to introduce our speaker. Maho joined the Humane League and its Japan operation in 2017. Since then, has been focusing on engaging with the corporations on cage-free procurement policies to bring institutional changes. The cage-free advocacy has been part of Maho's life, and now she's excited about making challenges into chances. Maho has advocated for farm animal welfare, the better treatment for animals for over 2 decades in Japan. In the past 2 years, she has served as a steering member of the Farm Animal Day for Asia for Animals. She lives in Tokyo, Japan with her husband, rescue dogs and cats. So now everyone, please welcome Maho to be the speaker of our session. Now the stage is yours.
Thank you, Nidnoy. Thank you for the
Maho, sorry, before you go on, we can only see half of your screen, so we need to try to figure this out.
How about this?
Oh,
Can you
that's
see?
better. There you go.
You don't see my note, do you?
Do not see your note.
That's good.
Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Nidnoy, for a very wonderful introduction and facilitating this workshop. And thank you all AFA to help me for the 2022 Asia Farm Animal Day. This is amazing. It's been already 3 years, 4 years since its inauguration. So my name is Maho Uehara. Some people know me as Maho Cavalier. My workshop today is an interactive one, and it's entitled Challenges and Solutions in Corporate Outreach. So let me give you the background of why I thought this workshop is useful. So THL Japan has been in operation in Japan since 2017, so nearly 6 years ago. THL Japan has the same mission, which is to free layer hens from caged confinement by, actually, might slow down, so I'm gonna close my video. THL Japan has the same mission, which is to free layer hens from caged confinement by securing 100% cage-free commitments from corporations. However, getting 100% commitment is very hard in Japan and probably in Asia. We've tried different tactics and taken innovative actions. We have modified and used more helpful and cooperative approaches because that suits more for Japan. Otherwise, it can slow down the process and can also negatively influence staff's morale. They're working hard, but they cannot meet the expected goals. So I think it's very important to develop strategies that fit to your region's current situations and also culture. Since its start, the Humane League Japan has brought notable progresses in Japan's cage-free movement and farm animal welfare. I've made this timeline and highlighted major events that happened as a result of our cage-free work together with other animal advocacy groups. And the events there are also events that have influenced our cage-free work. So above the arrow is our activities. Below the arrow are events that have influenced the egg industry and the movement. First, a few commitments we secured were global corporations such as Compass Group, Nestle, Hilton Hotels, Four Seasons, and so on. In 2019, Aeon has launched the private brand cage-free. Then this September, they announced that they are going to sell their private brand cage-free egg to all their stores nationwide So approximately 900 stores in the end in Japan. This is so powerful, but they haven't published the policy. So despite the successes we brought in Japan, there are still challenges that are hard for us to advance further to implement true changes for hens. It's always encouraging to highlight successes and victories, but it is very important also to review the challenges. So today I will present the challenges we face in Japan for our cage-free work and solutions for it. You all please think of your own challenges in your regions and work in groups later to discuss your own challenges and solutions. We cannot solve all the problems today, but you can get new ideas or ways of thinking that can help you strategize for the difficulties. Here are the areas of challenges I can think of. I'm not going to go through this, so please quickly read it. But I will go into the details soon. Do you have same challenges in your regions? So we have unique challenges in Japan, practically, so logistics, extremely limited supply of cage-free. The statistic of actual numbers of cage-free production is not available. Cage-free production is mainly limited to small farmers and hybrid systems. Also, being seen as a leader is not a desired trait in Japan. Rather, companies want to rise together. Not having a non-assurance scheme labeling cage-free eggs, this is a challenge too. Also, not having a Japanese legislative standard of what cage-free is and what the standards are not available, unavailable, that's a challenge. Together with Animal Rights Center Japan, over 170 commitments were secured in Japan. However, the majority is from smaller health-based businesses, farmers who already had cage-free systems, and global companies committing already globally. There are also cultural aspects that are challenges. Change is not always a good thing. The style of democracy is different. No example of successful civil movement or activism. It's a prideful nation, so resistant to forceful changes or for foreign influences. Group-minded, sticking out nail, hammer down. So if you do something different that bothers the rest of the industry or society, that is seen as not a good thing. There are also unique Japanese corporate culture I see as challenges. Businesses are highly risk avoidant, so they will make sure all the risks are addressed and solutions are prepared. Ideas for goals are different. They still set the goals that they can achieve, as failure is not acceptable. It's humiliating. Therefore, they're not transparent. They will not release anything until they're sure they're succeeding it. Group-minded industry or businesses do not want to change alone, but they want to change together. Although there are challenges, these challenges will not stop us from advocating for animals. There are ways to look at the challenges from other sides, different angles, and challenges can be opportunities. Also, we're all should think that those challenges, the opportunity for us to earn experience and be wiser. So for your reference, I will share some example of the tactics THO Japan has used. So instead of 100% cage-free policies, we use more gradual incremental changes with slower timeline and smaller percentages. Aggressive and negative campaigns are not effective usually, so we don't work against the companies, but we rather work with corporations. We also use the Japanese culture of group-mindedness and set up corporate, using group-mindedness, we set up corporate working groups to provide opportunities for everybody to think together. To bring the movement forward to the level of a social issue, we changed the narrative to involve all the stakeholders. Nobody left in this issue. So instead of saying, do not do da 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 da, we have changed the wording to let's do da 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 together. So we strive to communicate in a way that makes society as our ally. Also, please be mindful about, we're mindful about to recognize that even though the local situation may appear to be the same, it is different due to deep-rooted cultural, historical, and ethnical backgrounds. It's risky to overlook these subtle differences. Local activists are the experts of the local cultures and what works. They know that. So we need to review the mission and goals to customize and localize the strategy for our own countries. It is hard to give feedback to your supervisors, but we need to develop the most effective strategy based on the local characteristics. And your supervisor would like to learn from you. So give helpful and constructive feedback to be successful and effective. Now we're moving on to the small room activities. What a unique challenge do you face in your country when doing a corporate outreach for your work? So it might be cage-free or farm animal welfare. So think of that in a small room. And these are the areas of challenges I have shown you earlier. We will divide you all into 3 small groups according to the challenge you want to discuss. Each group should have 5 to 6 people. I think it depends on the participants now. But group 1 is logistic challenges. Group 2 is cultural challenges. Group 3 is business culture challenges. And please discuss your own unique challenges and share them with your group members. Find the commonalities and address them to come up with the solutions and tactics and strategies. We will talk in the small groups for 15 minutes. After the group work, each group share your challenges and solutions in a main room. So please pick a presenter who can share your findings and solutions with the rest of the group in the main room. And I think it depends on the time, but we will spend about 10 minutes sharing to the public about your solutions and challenges. And if time permits, we come back to the main room, stay in the main room, and it's an open discussion time. That's the plan. So thank you so much.
I will be dividing people into break room now. Maho, do you mean that for each of the room, people will have room 1 will discuss the unique challenges in terms of logistic, and room 2 and 3 so on with culture and business. There's technical problems with the break room. Why is there only one room? Wait.
Are we outside of the room?
Yeah,
We-
the moderator.
we are.
Yeah, but you can join the room to discuss with them. I think
that'd be interesting.
due to the limited number of people, I think let's just I think due to the limited number of people, let's just discuss all three topics together, because when we divide the participants, the number will be a little bit low. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pop into different rooms from time to time. I don't know how to do it.
You could click on break rooms. I believe that I sent you a note as for that.
Yes, I did, but I read it, but I don't see exactly the same.
Okay. So now we have 2 break rooms, and I've assigned
2. Okay.
Okay. I have assigned participant to break rooms, so I'm gonna open the break rooms now. 2 break rooms.
Sure.
Due to the number of participants.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
you can jump between each room to guide the discussions. Hi. So we are in the first break room.
okay, great. And the participant is Isa?
Yeah, Isa, welcome to our first break room. Hi, Brooke, and we have here our main speakers. I think among ourselves we can discuss Maho's point just then.
Yes.
Yeah, we come from different backgrounds. With Brooke from the UK, Isa from Indonesia, am I right? And Maho from Japan, and myself from Vietnam. So I think there's plenty for discussions.
Sure. Yeah, since I think my idea was to use 3 different topics, but because we have small, participants, we can talk about challenges and solutions in general, maybe. That sounds okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so any questions, anything you would like to share? So, okay, Brooke, maybe in UK.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can only talk from a very much a layperson's standpoint, because I don't work on farm issues. I work on I sort of specialize in primates and stuff.
Oh.
But I'm here today, quite interested in all this, and I know that, like, culturally in the UK, for example, if you're talking about egg production, eggs are like the most important food in the world or something. People do not want to change, and so I think you have a section of people who are very aware of animal welfare issues, but the very vast percentage of the country, even amongst people who maybe don't eat meat for of humanity, they're just not fully aware of the practices behind the egg laying industry and stuff like that. So there are many attempts to change that, but I think they've only been partially successful thus far.
So you think that low awareness still?
I think there's low awareness. I don't think there should be, but you see, of course, I live in a bubble of animal advocacy.
Yeah,
and so everybody I know is very aware, but when you get out into the more general public, I think it is quite low awareness, despite all the best efforts of many nations.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, interesting. Thank you. How about any other participants? I think I saw you're Indonesia. You're in Indonesia. No, sorry. No, you are.
No, I'm in Vietnam.
Vietnam. So.
Hi, yeah, please go on, Aisha.
Yeah, from Indonesia. I think my voice cracked a lot, right?
Okay. I think that Hướng, myself, and Aisha may experience the same problems with doing corporate outreach. I myself have quite limited experience in doing that, but as a person with a background in business, I think that we could discuss some of the problems with in terms of doing business with the corporations. I'll let Maho, you could ask us the questions, guide the group discussions for this, and you can visit the other group and guide the discussion as well.
Yeah.
Just click on the breakout room and you can join the other discussions to see how.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Please talk freely, yeah, about this. So I go to the next room.
Okay.
I don't know how to
just click on the
still
breakout
here.
room button.
Yeah,
on the
I did.
toolbar.
Yes, broadcast message to all.
Oh no, on the room 2, you see room 2, there's a join
Yes.
button. Yeah, and that's where you can join.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the 3 of us, I'm still recording our because I'm the host and I'm still recording our internal discussions. I think let's discuss some of her points first, so we'll not be so behind with the other groups. Okay.
It's just me and you now.
Oh no. Why though?
Maybe we should all just join the same room and have a
Then it's not a discussion anymore. Then it's not a group discussion.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it. It's just not my area of specialization. I apologize.
Okay, let's just settle for the UK and Vietnam, and we represent those 2 countries.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
I think in
That's
terms of
fine.
logistics, I think in the UK, where people have very high public awareness, but then there not enough attentions on animal welfare products, and people like prioritize using products that are cheaper and more affordable rather than products with high animal welfare. And that's the
Yes.
same with Vietnam. People choose all of the cheapest and most affordable options without actually caring for animal welfare.
Yeah,
And
yeah. We also have an issue in the UK where certainly not everybody, but there's a large percentage of the population who just think that it doesn't really matter because chickens are bred for it anyway. For example, that's what they're for. They're for people to use. Therefore, we created them. We can use them how we like. That I'm not saying this is correct, but this is a very prevalent mindset. And I think that I think this is probably getting quite far away from the theme of the discussion, but I do think that's something that needs to be worked on at the level of like early childhood education, so people don't grow up with such an attitude.
Yeah, actually, we are in topic. Like she's still talking about the hurdles that we have to overcome in order to have an effective corporate outreach campaigns. So well, I think we might have found a solution to that for a logistic challenge, like for the public to be more awareness, to educate them from an early age. And what about products being too expensive? I mean, I see there's a chance, there's a trend that high animal welfare products are being produced, but I think that the production scale is still quite low, and people haven't yet found a way to address that kind of problems, pump up their production skills. And also in terms of the cost, do you think there's any kind of solutions?
In the UK, Well, I am aware that there are big government subsidies for animal product production for dairy farmers and presumably egg farmers and stuff. I don't know the ins and outs of it because again, it's not my area of specialty, so I do apologize. But I suppose that if such subsidies are being given to the producers of animal foods, I suppose groups could lobby government officials to direct such subsidies to high welfare places.
Yeah,
that may be
direct subsidies to high welfare, but that would
What about in Vietnam? Is animal food production subsidized by the government or what?
Yeah, I believe so, but not
Yeah.
not entirely enough. Like, I think the subsidies still goes to other areas like public healthcare and education more.
Yeah.
But but that leaves a lot of room for improvement for us, for animal advocates to write letters to the government, draw more attention to the problems. Yeah, I think that's a large scale economic kind of problems. So what about cultural challenge? Like, I think that in the UK it is easier for people to stand up for these kind of beliefs.
I suspect that may be true, although they're they're trying to pass legislation right now to like stop people from doing protests and stuff like that. But but yeah, currently we do have a relative a lot of freedom to do such things. And I do know that there are groups that hold protests and whatnot, but they're largely, again, I think by the general public, they're regarded as wacky. Like,
I know.
It doesn't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they achieve what they're meant to achieve. They may not, if you see what I mean.
Yes. Yeah. So you would say that hard campaigns by these lobby groups are not effective?
There are so many different types of campaigns, and because so I see problems kind of with campaigns that come from a certain angle, protests, strong imagery, all this sort of thing are seen by a large subset of the population as the realm of kind of wacky people, like weird people. Don't pay a lot of attention to it. But on the other hand, the groups who are working for high welfare and sort of more subtle tactics, I suspect that sometimes they're viewed by people who are very strong animal advocates as being weak, because there's this divide between, whether high welfare is okay or whether you should just not use the animals at all. It's really complex. And I think if I knew the answer, then we'd all be a lot better off, because you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think that there's any kinds of answer for this question. Otherwise, everything would have been resolved now.
We'd be fine, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely, I think that hard campaigns, dealing with corporates, dealing with corporates, in terms of promoting the use of higher animal welfare products are largely ineffective, at least in the case that you're presenting, and in Vietnam as well. Not only do people look to you as being like extreme lobbying group, but also I think there's legislation or laws that prevent such actions from being taken. Like, you cannot be too extreme or to push too hard for the business to see it your way. So we'll move on to the business challenge. here, I think that we could agree that business are not always transparent in terms of their practices, like the annual report do not reflect all their operations. Also, no responses normally when we send letters or try to come into contact with them with regards to the problem at hand. And I wouldn't say that they have a low awareness, like company hospitality company, like what Maho just said. I wouldn't say they have like low awareness, but do you think that in the UK people leaders of these kind of companies have low awareness of these kind of products?
I'm afraid I just don't even have a good answer to that question. It's so far beyond my realm of experience and expertise. I can't give a useful answer, and I apologize for that.
Okay. I don't know if we should keep the break rooms open or we should get back because 15 minutes is up.
Yeah, Hung gave us a 1 minute warning. So breakout rooms closing in 12 seconds.
Yes. Okay, we'll leave breakout room. Thank you. I hope that everybody had a good discussions in the second room. Nít nói, shall we begin with the first first group?
The first room, yes. Okay, so the first room we discussed about the challenges in logistics, and I was one of the group that was into the conversation because it was of the problems that we are facing here in Thailand. So in my part, I shared that in Thailand, especially we have the problems, of course, with the logistic, which the cage-free eggs itself, the price already expensive. When add up to the logistic costs into the delivery fee, it costs a lot more, like even 2 times here in Thailand. And there are some of the parts in Thailand, it's a lot harder to deliver the eggs. We recently talking to one of the hotels in Thailand, which is in Phuket, if you have heard before. It's an island area, so it makes even harder for companies to commit to this cage-free commitment. And our friends Michelle and Nicola, if I pronounce it correctly, have suggested some ideas which to be adding. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. So yeah, we were just kind of talking about the importance of working or trying to work with, if they're willing to, with producers. So if we can kind of start building those relationships and talking to them about other companies who have made commitments or how we might work with them to improve kind of supply routes and options, then that's often a good way in, because once we get producers on board, then companies are more likely to sign up if we can say, yes, there will be availability, these producers can help you. So that was the kind of one aspect. Often, though, we were saying that producers in particular don't want to share information with NGOs. They like to keep their secrets close to them. So again, we didn't really kind of come up with a solution for that, but I guess it's about kind of just building those relationships, taking time, showing that we as NGOs can be trusted and that we want to support them in this work. We then also talked about how companies don't want to work with kind of more of the pressure type groups often. So how can we kind of get in there and build those relationships again? And we would sort of Nicola had a good example, which I would let her speak to, but basically how we can often represent kind of the groups or a coalition. So rather than us all going to a company asking for the same thing and using up their very valuable time, and they might then be reluctant to talk to any of us, if we can go in as one and say, look, we're representing these other groups, this is what we want from you, we're more likely to get those conversations going, and we can use that as our power as well. So we can say, look, we want to kind of make this happen. We've got these other groups who are pushing us. How can we support you to make these changes? But Nicola, do you want to talk about the Meta example kind of in particular?
Yes, so this was, I don't work directly on farmed animal issues, but what I do in my role is working with social media companies to get them to improve their policies and enforcement around animal cruelty content. So our approach as the Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition, as part of Asia for Animals, is that we are a coalition of different organisations working on this issue. And our role within SMAC is to represent those groups. And the reason for that was because, again, it's that duplication of effort. So all the individual organisations were trying different ways of putting this pressure on the companies or trying to engage with them. And so we brought them together to share that information, which has been really, really interesting. And we can then go to the meetings with agreed objectives and agreed approaches with all our members to speak with Meta, and they have been keen on that. You know, I think they appreciate that they're only having to speak to us once, but we also run, we had our first roundtable with them yesterday so that we could have all of our members present. So there is still that chance for the dialogue. Meta can see that it isn't just us. These are the faces, these are the organizations that we're representing. And obviously everything we do is in consultation and with the organization. So there can be some pressure, you know, because all these organizations are relying on you to do a good job. But, you know, we try to update them and keep them involved as much as possible so that we're all guiding what we're doing. It's not just us dictating that, you know. So yeah, it's still early days, but it does seem to have got a more regular engagement, at least from Meta.
Yeah, thank you so much, you two, for helping add the ideas. I have another like small note to add as well. Like from my experience, sometimes company expect us NGO that approach them to commit the cage free to be like one-stop service thing to help them run everything from the start, like us help approach the producer, work with the producer with like the best price in the market for them, and then we like get that price for them, and you know, until like, you know, the end of the road. So yeah, that's what one of the challenge that I face as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, please continue.
Yes, so now should we move to hear more from the second break room?
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
that will be us. So Brooke and I and Hương, we do not have like a most solid background in corporate outreach, but in terms of challenges that we face in the UK and Vietnam, it's a little bit different. For pretty much every challenges that Maho suggested we face in Vietnam, every logistic challenge, cultural challenge, and business challenge, we face every single thing in Vietnam. But for the UK, I think the cultural challenges are a little bit less, with people more willing to stand up and more willing to listen to campaigns and to NGOs and the messages. Yeah, and more willing to pick products that can have a higher price tag, but have you know, come from places with higher farm animal welfare. And I think the solutions for that are not easy. Like it would take like a very large scale kind of cooperations between various stakeholders, NGOs, the government, the people, and company as well. But in terms of logistic challenges, we would say that if it's possible to incorporate early education about compassion for animals in general, and for farm animals in particular, so that right from an early age, people have their compassion has already been instilled within them. So when they grow up and they have purchasing power, I think that it would be they would be more willing to buy higher animal welfare products. And that's for logistics challenge. And I think for cultural challenges, I think that this would have to do with, we have a session on how to shift narratives in terms of doing campaigns for corporate outreach. Maho raised a very good point here. We have to take into considerations the cultural differences when we put messages out there for our campaigns, and for the companies as well. For example, if we're targeting like a Japanese company, then it's worthwhile to learn about the culture a little bit before we approach them, and adapt our narratives, in terms of storytelling and other messages as well, so that they will be more receptive to our messages. And I would say that some of the messages on the 4th sessions that we have for AFAD would be beneficial for that, shifting narratives and how to, put the same message out there, but with different wording as to get to get the best outcome possible. And in terms of business challenge, I would say that I have the pleasure to talk with a colleague from HSI Vietnam, and she's doing a great job at integrating, doing a cage-free kind of project in Vietnam, which I may say have all the challenges that Maho said, but she's doing it with moderate success already. And the thing is that she, with HSI connections, she has worked with experts in terms of transitioning to from into cage-free production with a professor from the University of Amsterdam, if I recall correctly, and working with the academia to learn how you could pump up the productions, and and how to best lower the prices, so you could ensure the volume and also ensure the price before you approach the the corporate officials, so that they will be more willingly to listen to you. So with her approach, she approached the corporate first and convinced them to consider transitioning to cage-free, for example, first, and then she worked with production later. But that's just her way of doing her campaigns. But yeah, I would suggest that to work with the academia from university who's specializing in this. Yeah, that's our findings. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And anyone has any thoughts on this, or any thing from your own experience to share?
I think that's interesting around sort of having a external party in the terms of working with this university. Again, it's just I suppose bringing in experts that are going to make the corporations realize that this is just, it's gone beyond the animal organization that has these concerns. It is a big enough issue that it is being, there are these experts, there's whole academia around it, just to show that it's very valid that this is happening, and that it's something that they need to consider.
Yeah, thank you. So I quickly jot down the discussion points. In group 1, challenge is cost of the cage-free eggs. Pressuring is not welcomed. So corporations expect we all as one-stop solution. So you have to do from 0 to 10 to bring, sorry, my cat. One-stop solution. So your range of work is so wide, which this is exactly the same problem we have. for the solution, cost of the cage-free eggs, I think maybe, sorry, this is probably my mistake. This was the problem. And working with producers and having a good relationship with them is a good idea. And I agree, because actually, do you know East in Taiwan, right? They have a coalition of cage-free farmers, producers. They have criteria, they have group of cage-free farmers that have a capacity to supply eggs to care for Taiwan, which is a very smart move, which THO Humane League Japan is trying to do as a next step. And also integrate a group as one, and one group negotiates as the face of the coalition. This is Nicola, your experience, and I think this is a really powerful way. In fact, Open Wing Alliance used these tactics to negotiate with various companies, right? But the problem, the challenge is you feel pressure, you are the front of the negotiation. And also, I personally thought that the OWA's expectation is so high, whereas Japanese companies cannot meet the expectations. So we're kind of in between them to negotiate. So trying to negotiate down OWA's expectations, but trying to, encourage corporations to do better. This is what you have to do. So that was really challenging. But for, Nicola, you actually used the tactics to meta, having meeting objectives, speaking to one as a group, and that was powerful. And round the table is a great idea. Group 2, challenges in Vietnam. Logistic challenges are very similar to Japan, probably much less cage-free eggs. So it's really hard to convince corporations to buy more cage-free eggs, right? But people are more willing to stand up. That's good. And people are more for ethical choices. Solutions are compassion, education from early age. That's great. Learning about the origin of companies. If I misunderstood, please correct me. Shifting narrative to work locally, more suitable for the local culture. Bringing experts, academia, which is done in Vietnam by HSI, that's definitely more convincing for farm animal welfare movement or cage-free or anything else. I think these are all great points. One thing, Group 1 had this. The Humane League recently launched a corporate cage-free working group, basically a round table. So within since 2017 to now, we try to reach out to corporations, trying to engage and set up meetings, but most of them do not reply. But the round the table, this working group, there were 14 companies attended and 19 people attended. So, 19 people means each one company may have 2 or 3 participants. But that was the most successful engagement in terms of number wise. We were in 2017, we struggled to even engage with 1 or 2 companies, but round the table collected 14. That was we thought was a great idea. This is just a recap, but any final comments,
Yeah, so just had a question about what you just mentioned there about having an open working group. So did you approach lots of different companies and say, we're creating this, we have this opportunity for you to come together, and your competitors or the producers are going to be there?
Well, we have a list of target companies, which we have reached out in the past several years, but they ignored, or some of them are engaging with us. So we made it as a closed group and invitation basis. So corporations feel comfortable about attending and sharing information, then they can attend anonymously. Surprisingly, most of them revealed their company names. But we made the environment as secure as possible so that they can speak up freely. But this is an opportunity So this is a way of using group mindedness in Japan, that everybody's working together atmosphere, right? So, and yeah, next one will be as a speakers, we will invite producers and then ask them to highlight why cage-free is a good choice and for the future for Japan's egg production. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
really fascinating. Yeah, well done on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, but we were really surprised. We thought there won't be any participants. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to make it a closed group. And I think HSI may be using something like the NDA. That might be a good idea.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really interested in this like open discussion. When you are planning this and working with professionals in like cage-free production, how would you like prepare with like the person, I mean the cage-free professional, before like you invite the companies? I believe because as an NGO we have like a perspective and like the context that we would like the person to address. Do you have like like a meeting beforehand with that person, and then you have like the meeting with companies later? Do you understand my question? Sorry, it's quite
Is a question for me?
yes.
Or for
yes. Yes.
yeah, so one thing I was really working hard on was to connecting with producers for 6 years, meeting with them, getting to know each other. So, and then also we visited several farms to make sure their operations are really cage-free, like good cage-free. When you say cage-free farmers, they may say, yeah, we are cage-free. But when you go to the cage-free farm, it's not really a good quality sometimes, right? So we make sure which one is a good one and which one has a, vision and can have good ideas. So we have a pool of producers. This is the internal list, but they are good speakers. We can ask him or her to present this occasion, or we can go to meeting with corporations with him or her. So really like there is no measurement or anything, but we get to know each other really well. And I can trust these producers to speak positively about cage-free. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you answered
Yeah.
perfectly, and I believe in the future we might do this, so it would help like a lot when we talk with companies, because so far we haven't been able to build good relationship and long relationship like you have with your producer. 6 years, that's long.
Yeah. Some of the cage-free farmers are really like young producers. It's amazing. They want to advocate for cage-free farm animal welfare, so they started cage-free farming. That's a really fascinating finding. Like they're basically activists, but they're producers, right? Something like that. These people should be on your side and work with them. But I had never thought, because I'm vegan, I had never thought I would work with producers, but whatever it takes to make it work. Yeah, but nope, maybe because you're coming from corporations, so maybe you can provide us like a corporate view on what is a good talking point to change your mind if you're a corporate person.
I think when it comes down to that, I would care most about, first would be the profit, and the second would be our reputation. I would say that right now, for example, if I'm a hotel owner and you approach me with this, and I would say that, okay, it would be a good deal if you can maintain the same volume of products that we are getting with the same price, at least that, then I'll be considering. And on top of that, consider the logistical side of thing as well. Would be easy, to transport all of that products to our hotels or companies for consumption. Are there any kind of paperwork that we have to do? They want something straightforward and direct as possible. And I realized that maybe we do not have enough manpower to ensure that. But I'm just saying, as a corporate person, I may want to have all that answer before I even, consider the suggestions. And also, while we realized, I think that for every hotels, I have the pleasure to talk with one of the leaders before. They have their own CSR sections. And there are a lot of causes that they want to consider as well, as a form of PR for the hotels. And I think that's one area of competition right there, that we have to make ourselves look more interesting and, mutually beneficial for us and for them as well. If we want them to see, yeah, this cause is more prominent, it's more interesting, it would help promote our images to the public more. Yeah. And I would say that it comes down to the question of PR and changing the narratives for people. Yeah. But for me, I would say that if you can ensure the profit will not be affected, and if it is even better if you can make it, lower the price even for a little bit. Maybe other perk as well, like the qualities of our products is more healthy or more beneficial for consumptions or something. Yeah, and I think that's when they'll consider it. Yeah, I actually have a question for you, Maho, and when doing corporate outreach, I think one of the most fundamental questions for any campaigns officers would be the question of which corporations to approach. Like, what are the questions that campaign officer needs to ask themselves before they approach any kind of corporations, like the sets of criteria, if you will?
Yeah, that's really a good question. When we choose target companies, when I started in 2017, I targeted global corporations that already have cage-free policies at the headquarters level. And for example, Hilton, for example, Starbucks. I went to those local operations because when I started, cage-free movement was really new. Nobody knew. When I went to corporations, they usually ask, what are you talking about? But so to build momentum, just change where we could, right? And those global food companies were easier targets because there's already a policy, and also the employees know about it. And then I started seeing the changes in the food contract companies. So I went to the counterpart in Japan, like food companies in Japan, and went to them and say, hey, these global corporations, your competitors are changing. You should change in Japan too. The next one is hotel. Hotels are changing. I went to the hotels in Japan and asked the hotels to change to cage-free too. That kind of like there is a layer, foreign companies in Japan, then also they're the same industry, companies from the same industry. And the next one is now we're focusing on Japanese corporations that have global presence. For example, Nissin, Aeon, what else? Toridol was a recent one. They really care about international reputations. So these are the criteria. Foreign companies that already have global policies and their competitors in Japan. And then third one is the global corporations, Japanese global corporations. And you can start seeing the changes. One big player changes and the next one changes. So in that, then you focus on the industry. So now hotels are changing. So go to hotels. So for short period of time, we just focus on hotels. And then next, oh yeah, restaurants started changing. Go to restaurant industry. So it's really fluid. So we have plans, but it's really, they're variants and then fluid.
I have another questions like, I know the logical step would be to approach the global companies, but what about the very big local ones with little international presence in other countries? Would these in your experience, would they be the ones that are harder to approach?
I think so, but surprisingly, these companies are doing really well in Japan. Like I thought, well, for example, there's a sweet shop called Glico Lotte, and they don't have much international presence, but because competitors are changing, like Hershey Japan, Hershey, they started looking into try to be the first one in Japan, which is really unusual. And also I also use the sustainability index, right? So index, for example, Standard & Poor's or BBFA, they focus on public corporations. They really care about stock market and their reputations. So I go to these, even though they don't have an international presence, publicly traded Japanese corporations really pay attention to these indexes. So go into the index, the questions, and find farm animal welfare questions. And when we go to corporate meetings, show them these are the questions being asked. You want to have them high marks in order to make it to the next step. Have these criteria in your policies or something like that. But you're right, Japanese corporations, really domestic corporations are hard, but surprisingly, one or two players are doing better.
Thank you, Maho, for sharing your very insightful experience.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful. We're trying in, making mistakes, or, we're learning constantly. So this kind of discussion is very helpful for me too.
Have you ever worked with academia before? How do you think we could, convince them to work with us?
Yeah, academia is definitely important, like you said. But unfortunately, there are only one or two or three experts in Japan. And when we go to the corporations and showing, hey, this is the data, which is from UK, which is from Europe, which is from the US, and they say, well, this is not Japan. Japan is different, right? So we really, I'm sure you all have the same problem. We really need the domestic, like Japanese professors. There's only one or two who can work with us. They're very careful about the association, but yeah, just keep being nice to them and keep them on our side. That's all we do. But I sometimes encourage them to go to a funding, international funding, for example, EA, or this other one, and ask them to check into the funding so that they can do the research, for example, cost effectiveness of going cage-free, something that's helpful for us, and they can get funding from elsewhere. Sometimes I encourage that. Some professors are interested, but they're very careful. That's a challenge.
Brooke, thank you, Maho.
You're welcome.
That's because it's not my background, I haven't had a lot to contribute really to this conversation, but that's an interesting point I can bring in from primatology, is that a lot of habitat countries currently, there's a massive push in habitat countries to train young primatologists so that it can come from the inside. And perhaps this is something that you could all be thinking about, is really encouraging young students to work on issues that are really relevant to what you're doing, so that in the future, you've got a very strong academic argument behind what you're doing. I think that would benefit you a lot.
That's really a great point. It's interesting. So in Japan, there are young students who studied overseas, went to the UK or US or Europe and studied. They went through a farm animal welfare study. If they want to work in the industry, whatever, they go through the farm animal welfare, and they're influenced by their peers, right? They come back. They wanted to do something for farm animals, but in Japanese academia, there are no really courses or professors who can help them, right? But these young students are really promising, and I'm trying to find these, students and trying to bring them to our side. That's really a good point, really. How about any other countries in Asia? Do you have the similar problems, like lack of experts or young students?
In Thailand, cage-free is something that's still considered pretty new. Up to this day, we haven't had experience working with young groups yet, but that may be another group that we should take into consideration in the future. Yes, and in terms of experts, we haven't had looked into this as well, but I haven't heard anyone that really popular or experts in this field, like cage-free field yet. Yeah, so pretty rare for now.
Wow, that's interesting. There,
Yeah, sorry, Maho.
no. There are challenges, but I think there are ways to, like in the present, I'm sure you're all doing the same thing, but you can be creative and trying to think from this angle, that angle to make it work, right?
Yeah. I think I have a question. This is in terms of the wording when you first doing the outreach, first email to the companies. Do you what tone do you usually say in your email that you find this works and they respond to you so fast, from your experience, Maho, especially because you've been in the field for so long? Do you mention with the international standards? Do you mention the pain of the animals suffering, or what kind of things do you mention in your first email to get their attention?
Yeah, we usually write, we are here to help you. These things are, for example, farm animal warfare. In our case, cage-free is a world trend, global trend. And then Japan is behind. If you don't really go with the trend, you'll be left behind as a company or as an industry. And then it's really beneficial for you to meet with us. We have information about overseas and we know how to help you. So let's meet. And we'd like to learn from you. That tone. But even that kind of very friendly, amicable tone, it's hard to get in touch with corporations. But first thing we did, I sent 120 letters to 120 companies' presidents. The reason is in Japan, usually top down. So president receives the letter. If he or she doesn't like it, do something and then pass on to lower level workers. And that's what I thought. And some companies, yeah, responded, oh, I got a letter, I was told by my president to contact you. What do you want? That kind of things, right? And at least we engaged with first year 10 companies. That was the seed company. And we still, one of the company was Eon. So it took 6 years for Eon to launch cage-free private brand, right? Home brand. But they haven't published the policy. That's the challenge. Our goal is to have the policy from corporations, but they started selling cage-free eggs, but they haven't publicly committed.
I have an idea that just popped up in my head, Maho. And I I drew it from my own experience working at the, for as a coordinator for a competition for university students before. Like I would say that in some cases, could we consider like working with business students or students who study food technology, organize some kind of a competitions, it may sound a little bit unrelated, but to promote that kind of idea to transition to use other more higher animal welfare products within them, to engage them to be more innovative with their studies, because there's still a lot of competitions or that encourage students to do just that, and pull some kind of committees in. So, the ideas come from you approach a person you might know from an university and work with them, engage, organize these kind of competitions and invite some companies, food technology company in as well. That's just a rough idea that I have in my mind. It may sound a little bit silly.
No, that's a great idea. In fact, I thought about very similar idea, like MBA students, and ask them to research on cost benefit of farm animal welfare products or going cage-free for a company or something, right? Yeah, definitely. And now students, I saw some project done by a student here, university student, IT, smart agriculture and farm animal welfare. I don't know smart agriculture, which using the technology to monitor the production, right? I don't know how that helps actually animals really. It may help the production, but I don't know if farm animal welfare will be improved by smart agriculture. I'm not sure, but there are several projects by students looking into smart agriculture and farm animal welfare. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think in terms of smart agriculture, I would say that, for example, if anyone is familiar with the term Internet of Things, there are the devices, that could monitor their temperature, their current conditions within the cages, basically monitor their every movement and health. I think, and these, once put into mass production, the cost could be reduced. But I think that's a bit into the future. But that idea is totally feasible, I think. It's just like how you monitor a smart home. There could be peripheral devices that could do it. So and for example, in Vietnam, there have been competitions, coding competitions to help wildlife. I'm not sure how that works, but there are a lot of different kinds of programming that could be implemented into different devices that could track their conditions. And once farmers who are familiar with smart agriculture are familiar with those kind of devices, and once these kind of devices are more affordable and could be implemented on a larger scale, then I think it's an idea that could help.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, interesting.
And we are coming to almost the end of the session. If anyone would like to share any final thoughts or any experience that would help in the corporate work, that would be great before we part.
I think this session's been really interesting, even if you aren't necessarily working on farmed animal issues. So, you know, just around how to deal with corporates and the challenges that you see. So yeah, I think hopefully we can share this and more people can see it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think your primates, there are a lot of campaigns, activities going on here. You know, they're used heavily for experiments, right? And there are other entertainment areas too. So I think you're up and against big corporations, right? Primates. That's hard. So good luck.
Any final thoughts?
Just have to say, I'm very glad to see the cat joining the session. That's made
Me
that's made
too.
my day.
He
Me
keeps coming
too.
back. He keeps coming back. Woo! He's been here
Like-
all day.
We usually see his, like, you know, bottom part
I know.
always on the
Just-
screen.
Yeah, he's just showing his bottom here. Appreciate it. Anyway, yeah, this is really interesting. I enjoyed the discussion, and it made me think a lot. And I'm sorry if I didn't know much about some areas of your work, and I hope this was helpful, and like to keep in touch with you all.
Yes, sure, definitely. Well, I believe the session has come to the ending. So thank you so much, Maho, for your
Thank you.
session and the discussion, and also your experience in this field. I believe that we all here got a lot that we have learned from you, especially us who work in the corp, or any advocates here. So thank you so much. And also thank you everyone who joined us for today. And I'll see you soon if you are going to Malaysia for the summit.
Thank you everybody for coming here today. And
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Goodbye.
goodbye.
Goodbye.